Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In this video, I'm putting together my Project Life spread for the week of December 24th through December 31st, 2024, and finishing up my 2024 Project Life album. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So I'm putting together the last spread in my 2024 Project Life album, and this is the week that holds Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and New Year's Eve. So it was a pretty busy week. Mostly what I had to document was Christmas related, and then I have New Year's Eve, which we don't do a ton. We had fondue, and then Christmas Eve we did a spread here. And I was super sick, so that was a lot of the documenting. So here, let's see. That looks like a good idea for just a basic starting point for my photos. Now I need to figure out my cards. So for this spread, and I think I did this last year too, I pulled my December daily supplies out again because they fit perfectly in Project Life. A lot of them work in this size album. Not all of them, of course, in the pocket pages, but a lot of the products do. And I always have so much left over that this is a great opportunity to use a little bit more of those products to document these stories. So I'm going to go ahead and go through my products and see what I have that I might want to use. So these are the stories or the products that I have left over. So I did have this, which would be kind of fun to put on here, but I don't think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to focus more on cards, although I do kind of want to flip through some of the papers that I had left. A lot of these things are large scale, but cutting these out would actually be kind of cute. Or these. Or there are these ones that I could use to tell some little stories. So a lot of these, they're designed for a December daily album, but that doesn't mean you can't use them in other places. So I'm keeping those in mind. I'm going to go through the cards. So let's see. For 3x4 cards, this is what I have in my stack here. And some of these, so these like pocket tags, I'm not going to use those in Project Life. And I'm not going to use these ones, although they do fit pretty well that I could put those. And that would be a fun way to document. I've got some vellum ones. These ones were digital ones that I printed out. This one, I meant to print this large and use that as a page in my December daily, and I never got around to it. That I think is from the Liz Tamanaha kit. So there were these cards, December story, which I think might be good to tell some stories. So that's a possibility. I have this one left because I used the tag without it. And then I have a lot here I have some from older years. I tend to go through my supplies and kind of cut them down. This one actually would be really good because I could document about being sick and how awful that was. And that one's cute too. Let's see. Like this one. I'm just kind of going through and laying out ones that I could possibly use here. Now I did like the idea of using these, but I also don't have a ton of stories I want to tell. And let's see, I have 6 of them left. So that would be a good way to kind of just use these. Oh no, I have 7 across the spread, but I'm thinking I want to use more from this Liz Tamanaha kit and use some of those up because I like the variety, I like the colors, and I don't have as much to journal about because really I was sick most of this week. So there was Christmas Eve, there was Christmas Day, then there was New Year's Eve, And then I had some time off. I did crafting, I relaxed, I played a lot of video games because I was sick. So it really wasn't a ton that I want to document story-wise. Then let's see, I have these 4x6 cards. These were all the books we read in the year, so I didn't want to document that. And then I want to do a title card here. That one's cute. Or I could use something from the Liz Tamanaha kit to keep it matching. And there's this one about the senses. Ooh, I did really love this card. But it doesn't go with the Liz kit. It does if I pull that one out. And then I also really loved this. Oh, what fun. I also thought these guys, so the kit this year had these. I could punch these out and use them to kind of embellish my spreads or my photos. I don't know that I would use that one. Maybe just the joy. And I could do like tradition. Grateful for this one. Trying to decide if I want to like cut around them or if I'd want to punch it in a circle. And that seems like it would just take up a lot of space. I do like the idea of cutting out each letter and stitching them down. And then this could be like tradition, grateful, and then joyful on this one. I think I like that as a way to use those cards. And then let's see what else. So I don't want this next to that. If I'm gonna put this one in here, then I need one more thing to go here. I think I'm not gonna use this one because it doesn't coordinate well. But I do also have all of these like die cuts. There's so many pieces from this collection that I want to use a lot of them. It's so hard to narrow it down, but this is giving me the opportunity to use a few more products than I would have used. Oh, there's this paper. I loved this paper this year. Maybe I could use that to bring in something. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna put you guys on fast forward and get this one put together. I have a few of these like patterns that I might end up replacing and bringing in ones from the main kit just so that everything kind of coordinates a little bit more, and adding more details on top of these, more embellishments, and just having fun with it. This spread actually takes me quite a bit, and I think part of that is because I'm not working with a standard size kit, but instead I'm working with all of my December daily supplies, which means that I kind of had decision fatigue a little bit because there were just so many things that I wanted to use. And I find that as a problem with my December daily supplies usually, that I just have too many supplies because I love so many things and I want to use them all. And I just can't, because when I make the December daily album, I have, 25 stories or 25 pages, and that's it. And I don't want to tell more. I don't have more stories to tell. I don't have more time to create more pages. I want it all to fit in one album, but I just have so many supplies that I love that I want to use. So that's something I'm definitely going to keep in mind moving forward into the next December daily season. Anyways, back to what I'm doing on my spread here. I decided to cut these letters out individually. And honestly, I'm not thrilled with how it came out. I think because they were on such a thick white cardstock, they just didn't cut out as smoothly as if they were on vellum or something like that. So if I could do it again, I would have just punched them. But it did end up working out pretty well because they don't take up as much space on top of my photos. So I'm able to kind of just work the word around the image and not cover up too much of it. So this is a photo of my coffee mug on Christmas morning, and I just wanted to kind of document that little detail, and I liked the ability to add those words onto a couple of my photos across the spread. Next, I decided I wanted to use some of the chipboard pieces. I have a lot of December related chipboard pieces, so I just tried to pull a lot of them out onto my desk. I had some in this little organizer here, and I have some in another organizer on the other side of my desk, which is kind of off camera. You can see I'm grabbing from it now. And I'm just going through all of these, flipping them up on my desk. I want to find a way to use some of these up. For chipboard, I actually feel like I don't have too much of a stash for December daily, but that doesn't mean I don't want to use up those supplies. I'm also going over into my stash here where I had circles and pulling out a few of those pieces to see what I could add to the spread. This photo here is a photo of my boyfriend and I's books that we read in 2024. So we have a tradition where we put our books on this shelf. He has one shelf and I have another shelf. As we complete books throughout the year, we add them to the shelf, and then on New Year's Eve, we moved them into our reading room onto the shelves in there. So we have bookshelves throughout our house that are full of all the books that we have read. And rather than putting our books on those shelves every so often, a couple of years ago, I decided to start this tradition, and it is super fun because I like the visualization of all of the books that I have read. And I also like that I don't have to find a space for each book as I go, because some of my books are in like rainbow order and stuff, and just shifting everything around every time I have one book to add would be a little bit annoying. So on this little tag here, I stamped 2024 reads with that alpha stamp set that came with the December daily release this year. I am obsessed with that stamp set. I've been using it a ton. Even though I put away my December daily supplies, I kept that out with my regular stash, and I know that I'm going to use it year round. I also wanted to add a word phrase strip on here, so I'm just going through all of the holiday ones, looking for one that is going to work with this little tag here in the photo of our books. I do want to comment briefly just on the fact that I have all these books. So I know a lot of people have said, why do you have physical books? Why are you buying them? And honestly, it's something that I do for myself. I like to purchase books. I like to have them in my house. I know that some people don't have the space or want that many books, but I personally love having that many books around my house. And if it ever does become a space problem, I will definitely switch that up in the future. I also don't read ebooks. They give me a headache. I don't know why, but I just love the paper. So, and I don't do audiobooks. So those are all of the books that I have actually consumed during the year. I'm moving on to this card here to document Christmas Eve. So in my family growing up, Christmas Eve was the big day that we did activities, not Christmas Day. So I have continued that tradition as an adult and with my daughter. And what we do are hors d'oeuvres, where we just make a variety of food. This year we had 5 people total to feed, and I did all of the cooking, even though I was coming down with a cold. So I was resting and washing my hands and cooking throughout the day. So here I'm journaling about that and just kind of about what we did this year and how I continue traditions, but also how things were changing. I used the large stamp there to stamp Christmas Eve on this card for a couple of reasons. So one, because I used it on that 2024 reads tag. I now have that stamp set in my formula for the spread. And if you have watched some of my previous videos, you know this is something that I've talked about before with Project Life, but I like my spread to be cohesive. And how I accomplish that is by working from a small menu of supplies for the entire spread. So if I pull in something like a stamp set to create a tag, that stamp set is now part of my menu of options for this spread. And I tend to want to use it at least 3 times on the spread, because that is going to tie it together across the page. Of course, that doesn't always happen, and I'm not forcing myself to use something that I don't want to use or doesn't fit, but generally that is a good way to kind of make the spread cohesive. I also wasn't sure I would have enough journaling to fill up that card, so adding some large stamping is another way to kind of fill up some of the space. For my title card here, I used my large rolling date stamp from Studio Calico and added on a chipboard piece, and I love how that title card came out. I loved those rainbow trees this year. It was just super fun. On this pattern paper here that I had cropped down to 3x4, I pulled over my stash of circles and wanted to just add something on there. I ended up selecting this Santa's Coming one, not really for any reason other than this was Christmas week and I wanted to use something from the kit and I thought it was cute. So I'm just adding it with some rolling adhesive and I'm going to stitch it down in a little bit just to add a little bit of decor. Because I have so much stuff out at on my desk at this point, I'm slipping these things into the pockets just to kind of get them out of my way so I can kind of shift this page up and to the side and focus on the one that I'm working on. I didn't put those 3 cards in because I didn't think I was done with them yet. This photo is the spread of food from Christmas Eve, and I'm just looking at the various chipboard pieces, trying to see if there's one that would look nice on there, and I ended up going with this one that was from Liz Tamanaha. I'm not sure if it's from this year's kit or another one. They're all mixed together in my stash at this point. And now I'm moving on to the right hand side. So I'm just trying to clean up my desk a little. I usually don't clean up my desk until the very end, but sometimes I just need space. So I had all these chipboard pieces out and I had all these paper scraps. So I wanted to just get it out of my way so that I could work on the spread. This photo here of Pumpkin is from Christmas morning. He loves Christmas, and even though he's getting older, so he's not quite as excited as he used to be, he still loves Christmas. And this was him playing with all of his new toys. I believe this was when I let him, once he opened his stocking, and he has all of these toys here and he's just going crazy, loving on them and flipping around, rolling around on the carpet, having the time of his life. So I used this card from the Liz Tamanaha kit. It had some text on it. I can't remember what it says. Having ourselves the merriest of times, which is perfect for this photo of him. And I just cut around the words and I'm adding it on top of my photo. That is a good way to use up more of your cards. If you have a lot of cards you want to use, cutting them up and adding them on top of photos is a really great way to turn them into an embellishment and use more cards on a spread. Now I'm working on cutting out the letters to tradition, and I'm going to do grateful in a little bit too, but spacing these out makes it a little less tedious because cutting out each letter is very, very tedious over time. I believe I was watching a show or a movie at the time while I was putting this together. I can't quite remember at this point when I'm doing the voiceover because it's been a couple of weeks since I actually put this spread together, but I'm just cutting out all of the pieces, all of the letters individually, and then I'm going to line them up onto this photo of our chocolate fondue for New Year's Eve. So one of the traditions I've had for most of my adult life is to make fondue on New Year's Eve. And I typically do cheese fondue, but this year we decided to do chocolate for a couple of reasons, and it was actually really delicious and might be what we end up doing again in the future as opposed to the cheese. It's just less filling and still delicious, and the leftover chocolate fondue reheats really well. So I was having it as a snack for the next couple of days with a strawberry here and there, and it was just delicious. So I'm adhering the letters down on here and I'm kind of putting them in a similar pattern that they were in on the original card, and that helps them kind of just like fit into the little nooks and crannies of each other and just look super cute. I originally kind of wanted the words to all be on one row, but this word was just too long. You saw when I did the first one on the joyful one on the photo of my coffee that it barely fit across there. So for this one, that just wasn't going to be an option. And so I just stuck with the 2 layers and was happy with it. I added a chipboard piece onto this photo of me reading with Pumpkin. Like I said, this was a super quiet week because besides the holidays, I was very sick. I was super sick on Christmas Day and the next couple of days. So I spent most of the time just like on the couch relaxing. I was reading, I was playing video games and just lounging and trying to recover. This photo here is of my new Silhouette Cameo 5 that I got for Christmas, and I have still yet to set it up because I wanted to wait until my craft room redo was a little bit further along that I was working on in January before bringing anything else into my craft room, but I'm super excited about it. So I wrote grateful on here, and I think I was trying to fit it onto one row. I can't remember. Well, you'll see in a minute if I end up actually getting that to work, because like I said, the tradition, it just wasn't going to work. I think I do stick with it for Grateful and just make it super tight across there. I like that cutting these out allowed me to stack them on top of a photo without covering up a ton of the photo, but I don't know that I would do it if I was starting this spread over again, because I feel like because this cardstock was so thick, it just didn't cut that smoothly and they look a little bit choppy. I intentionally left some of the white around the gold because it's going to make the gold letters pop against the background of my photo, but it still is just, I don't know, it just doesn't look perfect to me. And of course, it's not going to be perfect when they're hand cut, but it just didn't look as smooth as I would have liked. So I took the 3 cards that I cut the words out on and this one that says Santa's coming over to my sewing machine, and I stitched them down using some white thread. That's just the color that I had in my sewing machine at this point in time. I rarely change it, but whenever I do, then I kind of get stuck with a color for a while. So white is the one that I use most often. After stitching a word or something down, I pull the thread through to the back, trim off the ends, and then just use some tape to tape it down onto the back. And that way there's not going to be any loose threads on the front. Now that I finished those 2 on the left-hand side, I can slip them into the pockets, and then I'm going to go ahead and finish up the ones on the right-hand side here, that Grateful one and the Tradition one. And then I'm going to move on to figuring out how I want the rest of the right side to look for my spread. So I do need to add some more journaling. I haven't yet added journaling about New Year's Eve, and I haven't added a bullet point list. So I like to do a bullet point list about what is going on in that week. If you've watched my previous videos, you'll know this is something I do pretty much every week. And so that's something I'm going to want to do on this spread as well. But first here, I'm going to journal about the general theme of being sick, because that was a big piece of this week. I was super sick, and it did impact Christmas, of course, but it was also just a kind of the story of the week. So on this one here, this card said, "All I Want for Christmas." I believe it's from one of the Liz Tamanaha kits. I'm not sure if it was from this year or previous one, but I stamped "Feel Better" because that's what I wanted for Christmas. And I journaled about being sick. And I think, so it was the Monday before Christmas, I ended up taking a sick day from work, and then I was off for the rest of the week already. So I just ended up having that entire week off to rest and relax, which was not how I wanted to spend my time off, but it worked out. I really liked how the gold sparkly star looked on this card in that spot, but I didn't like it with the gold of the words that I had cut out because the 2 golds were not the same. So I chose to do a sticker here that said 25 on it for the 25th of December. Now I'm going to move on to adding my journaling for New Year's Eve. So I wanted to use one of these die cut pieces on a background card here, and I ended up going with a circle one. I didn't really have a ton to say about New Year's Eve, so I didn't need a lot of space. And again, because I didn't have a ton to say and I wanted to continue with this formula, I pulled over my stamp set again and stamped NYE for New Year's Eve. And then I'm going to also select a brad to add into that hole. But first I'm going to do my stamping, and then I'm going to do some journaling, just kind of about what we did for New Year's Eve, which was nothing special. We had fondue. I was still sick, and we didn't stay up until midnight, partially because I was still sick and partially because we like to get to bed kind of early. But I think next year we're going to try to stay up because it is kind of a fun tradition. So I'm just doing my journaling quickly about how we celebrated and that we did the chocolate fondue this year, and just making some notes to myself. I made a pound cake for us to use in the fondue, which was delicious and not something I had baked before, or at least not in a long time. And then I'm using my paper piercer to punch this hole through the entire card, and then I'm just putting a gold brad from my stash to hold that one down. I decided to move it to that other location so the 2 stamped cards were not right next to each other. And then I have just this one last card here, and I'm trying to decide what to do with it and kind of rearranging everything. And I realize at this point, this is when I need to add my bullet point list. And if I flip this card over from the Liz Tamanaha kit, it has space on the back for journaling. So I'm going to add my bullet point list. Off camera, I have my Hobonichi Cousin, which has a list of everything that I did during the week. And I have all of those notes in there. So I'm just looking at the weekly spread and deciding what stories I wanted to tell on this spread. So I'm telling the stories about how I took time off of work and just the different things that were going on around here that weren't documented elsewhere. I also had a photo up there in the top left of this page that my daughter sent me of her coloring with her new markers that she got for Christmas in her coloring book. And I think I talked about all of the photos and stories that I'm documenting here. I do want to say that for Christmas and December, I tend to be less focused on what stories need to be included because I know a lot of these stories are already in December daily. And so I don't really need to document all of the holiday stuff as much as just want to have a space for using some extra supplies, documenting some additional photos that didn't make it in my December daily, and just kind of telling the story of my month. I know a lot of people struggle to do both Project Life and December daily in December. And for me, I have never really struggled with that. I haven't, at least not with wanting to do it or knowing what to document. I do struggle with the timing of it, of course, because it's just adding more projects. But in terms of figuring out what stories to tell in each, I just don't think of them as the same. December daily, I do the one story per day, and it's focused on kind of the holidays. Not necessarily every story is about the holidays, but it's just about the holiday season. Whereas Project Life is just about everyday life. So a lot of little stories end up in here that aren't the type of story that would go in my December daily or just didn't end up in my December daily. And a lot of stories end up in there which aren't in here. And I don't really worry about it too much. I just enjoy having the opportunity to document my life in these various formats. And yeah, I'm grateful that I get to document it and that I was able to finish out this year. So here's a look at this completed spread. I will have a flip through of this completed album coming soon, but thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys on the next one. Bye.